I'm Mason President Gregory Washington, welcoming you to another episode of Our Future Transformed, a series of conversations with Mason's leading experts about solutions to the grand challenges of today and tomorrow. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Guadalupe Carrera Cabrera of Mason's Schar School of Policy and Government to talk about the challenges and opportunities along the U.S.-Mexico border. In the news, the situation on the U.S.-Mexico border is often described as a crisis. In this context, there's been a lot of emphasis about crime along the border and criminals crossing the border. What is the problem? And why is the problem described this way?
Well, there is a problem. We're just talking about the border in a negative sense. The border is a fascinating place. It is a place that's very diverse with wonderful people that involves a lot of dynamics that does not have to do only with border violence, drug trafficking, and undocumented migration. These themes have been at the center of the discussion in the United States with regards to the Mexico-US border. When people describe, particularly the media and politicians in this country describe the border, they talk about these three themes. But the border is more than that. People live there. It's about trade, it's about culture, music, a different way of life, because we're talking about two countries. And we're talking about two cultures together that sometimes mixed and form what is called a third country, un tercer país.
We hear all this talk of cartels and large number of undocumented people crossing the border and the like. How do we move beyond the stereotypes involving law enforcement and involving these kinds of things?
The image of, or what I call a myth, of the Mexican cartels, led by violent drug lords like El Chapo Guzman, or we talk about many other bad guys that are presented in a certain way, featured in a certain way, that commit crimes and kill people. And this is wrong. Why? First of all, because this drives policy in a certain way. We cannot think about El Chapo Guzman. This is something much more complex. It's about the consumption of drugs, the demand for drugs, and the supply for drugs. This is a much more complex issue that does not only involve a Mexican organization led by a Mexican man and when Mexican or Latin American people are working there. This is much more complex, and we're probably should not be talking about cartels. We're really talking about a network of different actors working to get the drugs from point one where they are produced to where they are distributed and consumed. And we are talking about organizations that sell precursors, that produce drugs, and also companies that transport drugs, enforcers that protects the cargo, and a number of actors like corrupt authorities and people who distribute the drugs in the neighborhoods.
We often talk about how all of this connects to jobs in the country. Is there a connection between jobs and opportunity and what's happening at the border?
Yes, it is. We see many people trying to make it to this country. The immigration system in this country is broken. The asylum system in this country is broken. And there have been attempts. The attempts have been performed by two parties, bipartisan efforts to design comprehensive immigration reform to fix this broken system. Because people want to work here, jobs are available, but there are no legal migration pathways. People who have the resources to pay a smuggler are going to get into the United States, are going to get a job.
So your upcoming book describes your travels along the entire length of the border as you explored its communities, their food, their customs and culture. Why is it important to bring those issues to light?
Because the conversation has been centered on the negative things about the border. And because I lived at the border, my co-author was born at the border city. We have traveled three times all along the border. We took thousands of photographs that are going to be included in this book. We want our readers, the people who read the book, to know more, to know that this is not just a place of negative things, and to understand really the dynamics. Because also the topic of migration has been misunderstood in this country, has been connected with drugs. But migration has to be connected with the great things, with jobs, with possibilities, with opportunities, and the border starting to lay out what the border is about, that it's more than drugs, violence, security, walls, division. It's about people, it's about connections, it's about a culture of two countries, a third country, that it's the mixture between two nations.
Well, as I turn to you all here today, we have a number of our students in the audience. I'd like to open it up for questions. So any questions you have would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, so that was a lovely conversation to listen to, by the way. Do you think it's better to tackle the supply of the drug problem at the border or tackle the demand, which I'm thinking more towards demand, because I think the best way to tackle this problem is by starting with young children and improving education on it, because I know I had my DARE pledge not to do drugs in middle school, but other than that, that was it. So yeah, it just seems very easy for young people to fall into this.
This is a wonderful question. Since the declaration of the war on drugs by former President Richard Nixon, the focus of this drug policy in the United States has been the supply, and it has been a total failure. The focus of the DEA, the Kingpin strategy, going after the narcos, going after the Mexicans, going after the Colombians. What do we have now after almost 50 years of a war on drugs? Almost $1 trillion that have been spent on fighting the cartels, mainly. Nothing. We had the second phase of the opioid epidemic, the fentanyl crisis. So there's nothing more failed than that drug policy in the United States. Of course, we have to focus on prevention. We have to focus on the demand, because demand creates its own supply. That's what is happening. You kill or you arrest one drug lord, and then another drug lord is coming because the business is so lucrative. And if we don't deal with this issue as an issue of public health, with education, and with the communities, the society is very sick in many ways. The origins of this crisis also has to do with the pharmaceutical companies, has to do also with crisis of the real estate sector. People lose their home, people lose their illusions. People have expectations, and expectations are never fulfilled because we live in a very unequal nation. We have to deal with the root causes of the consumption of drugs in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer.
I'd like to thank you, Professor Carrera Cabrera, for your time today and engaging us. And I want to thank all of you for being a part of this week's episode of Our Future Transformed.